Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our NAPB webinar series. I am Magan from North Dakota State University, and I'm currently serving as chair of NAPB Graduate Student Working Group. So today's webinar is about leadership. Please join me in welcoming our today's guest speaker, Dr. Magan Lewis. Dr. Lewis is a renowned expert in the field of leadership, and we are excited to hear her insights on the leadership topic today. Dr. Lewis earned her PhD in plant breeding and genetics from North Dakota State University and her master's and bachelor's degrees from the University of Minnesota. Currently, she is serving as the Bayer Crop Science Equipment and Automated Field Sensing Lead. In her current role, she oversees the development, validation, global deployment, and logistics optimization of high-impact digital tools and sensors. So now I hand it over to Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis.
Okay, I have a thumbs up. So thank you. Can you all hear me okay? And can you see my slide? Perfect. So a little bit of technical difficulty today, team, but no worries. I am so excited to be here with all of you today and ignite your spark. Talk about agriculture, talk about plant breeding, but most importantly, talk about how do you become your best version and bring your best version to work, to school, professional, personal, every single day. And so I'm sure the introduction was fantastic. I wasn't able to hear it. So if I repeat some things, I do apologize. But my name is Megan, and I currently work at Bayer Crop Science as the Equipment and Automated Field Sensing Lead. But before I dive into the presentation, I love photos. And I know a really important story. This is Megan in a nutshell. Grew up in a small town in North Dakota. Both parents were educators, teachers, community trailblazers. My mom was a music teacher. My dad was a science teacher. My mom still teaches music today. And so I was so grateful and lucky to grow up in my dad's science lab at age 4. I remember completing my first project, activating the scientific method by taking a Q-tip swab, swabbing a water fountain handle, putting it on the Petri dish, and seeing an array of beautiful colors and growth. Now, most say that's awesome, that's science, you investigated. I also told my parents that that's probably where my OCD and germaphobe sense came from too, as I traveled across different hotels in different arenas. But I'm really grateful. I was exposed to science at a young age, but also music. I remember, completing science research in my dad's science lab and then running downstairs to my mom's music room and singing opera. I'm a classically trained opera singer since age 13. I also piano player and then percussion. My specialty was marimba. I love playing with 6 mallets, 3 mallets in each hand. And music was my release, my stress. That's how I recharge. That's how I was able to really reflect on what I was doing when I was growing up. And so that's a little bit about me, but science has always been in my roots, and agriculture especially. I competed at state, international science fairs all through high school. And one project that stands out, I actually developed a natural fungicide for potatoes and sugar beets. And so I worked with a local farmer and a grower. And it was fantastic. They're like, Megan, what are you putting on this plant? And I said, grapeseed extract, lemon seed extract. I was that mad scientist in the room just trying to figure out how I could give back to the farmers in my community. So I've always had a passion for enriching the lives around us, but most importantly, how do we help feed a growing population? And as I was figuring out what I was going to do, as I entered my undergraduate years, I triple majored, but I knew deep down that science was my calling. And the grower at the end of that experimentation, after a long day with dirt and mud on his face, and very, very long day, he looked up at me and he said, hey, Megan, you're going to change the agriculture world someday for the better. And that was one of those pivotal moments in my life where I paused and I said, yes, that is my calling, to continue investigating, solving problems, being a scientist, activating the scientific method, but most importantly, be me. And I love connecting with our growers, community outreach. And so that's what I did. Now, these other photos, I'm sure we'll get to in some cases during the presentation. But yes, I do have a life-size statue. I get asked a lot about that. So I do want to talk about the program, not so much the statue, but the importance of that program that it brings in communities around the world to inspire our future generation of scientists and leaders. It is truly fantastic. And then because of that program, I've been featured on PBS, CBS, etc. But most importantly, with the message to keep people engaged, to want to do science, want to dive into plant breeding, hopefully, right? But most importantly, want to make a difference in the world. So as I traveled to university, my journey was fun. I have a bachelor's and master's from the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. And during my master's, I actually worked with Rex Bernardo. So hi, Rex, if you're listening. Fantastic leader, fantastic scientist, and just fantastic mentor, helping me see things that I didn't even see myself as I was maturing and growing through the program. And so I'm really grateful for my time there. So worked on corn breeding, and then I did my PhD at North Dakota State University. And my advisor is Richard Horsley. And Richard is still near and dear to my heart because I stay in contact with him today. And we bounce new innovation ideas off each other. We talk plant breeding, we talk students, we talk recruitment. And those connections are so critical because they had such an impactful point on me and my journey that I do want to pay it forward, and then they pay it forward with me as well. So my degree was a PhD plant breeding and barley breeding and genetics. And towards the end of my PhD, I loved teaching. I loved advising. And so I advised students, I taught some labs, some courses, and I thought for sure I was going to be a professor, for sure. Then Dr. Horsley took me to San Antonio, Texas in 2011. And I remember this because we actually had an earthquake when I was there presenting my research on creating a DNA fingerprint for 6-row malting barley. And during that time, I met industry. And I met amazing people from Dow Acre Sciences and Pioneer, Syngenta, Monsanto, etc. And that was pre-mergers, right? And they said, Megan, you know what? You can be on cutting edge research. You can lead people, impact people, and you never have to write a grant again. Sold, right? But no, I chose to be my best version, and industry I knew would fit my mindset of how I worked, who I was. It would keep me engaged, it would keep me excited, energized. And so I took the leap of faith, transitioning from, hey, I'm going to be a professor, but no, I want to see what's out there. And I joined industry in 2012. This is the fun part. This slide, I have to give credit to a really good friend of mine from North Dakota State University, who just said, hey, Megan, you traveled a lot, you moved a lot, you worked on a ton of crops, you do a lot of things. And she was able to help visualize this in such a cool way to highlight the different states, the countries that I lived in. So again, making every interaction count, just wanted to give Dr. Anna Maria a shout out there because she was able to help me visualize my journey in a more powerful storytelling way. So I started in industry in 2012, and I was a pure soybean breeder, scientist, excited, hit the ground running. I joined as a soybean breeder, knowing that I'd be moved into the corn breeder position once all the paperwork got done. So I embraced the moment. I helped them with whether it's molecular marker lab or, figuring out tissue sampling or figuring out, just even getting ready for the planting season, and old school, mapping out the fields and walking it to make sure that we have the right dimensions. But I loved it. I embraced it, and I said, hey, I'm going to join industry. I'm going to dive right in. I then transitioned to be a corn breeder in Breckenridge, Minnesota. This is where my patents and my hybrids come from the breeding world. I was able to work with this amazing breeder from Mycogen at the time. And he inspired me like no other because he came in there, he didn't have a PhD, but he was one of the top breeders in the company with probably the most patents or hybrids granted. And he taught me the importance in more ways than everybody how you want to be treated. And he was able to really show me the power of May of 2012. I was excited, but also a little bit nervous. Day one, I was handed a broom to go sweep the back warehouse. And it was the most powerful broom I've ever been handed in my life. Because I can tell you, I swept that warehouse with these amazing contract workers from around the world that just really inspired me. They probably knew breeding and agriculture better than most people at that station. And they came in and they said, hey, we're in it together. We're team focused. And then they traveled with me, and I still remain in contact with some today because it's about making that interaction count. So that was a really powerful experience for me on my journey. And then in 2013, a lot happened, right? This is where the vice president of Dow Sciences for Research came out and said, hey, Megan, you're different than most breeders. Whoa, you know what? Yes, I know I'm different, but what does that mean? What's going to happen? And it was all good, my friends. It was all good. They said, hey, we want you to try people leadership. And I was excited. I've always knew deep down that my calling was greater. I mean, I want to be both. I want to be a scientist and a people leader, but most importantly, I'm a mom and a wife. But I wanted to make sure that I could activate to see and test the waters of what true people leadership looks like from that arena. So the family and we relocated to Huron, South Dakota in 2013. The team and I built a multi-million-dollar research facility from the ground up. I still was a corn breeder. This is where the multiple hats flow in. So, I still was a corn breeder. I led other corn breeders. And then, establishing the testing footprint across the state of South Dakota. Fantastic. Got to know growers, talk to farmers, talk to communities, and really start establishing that Dow AgriSciences brand in that area. And I worked with amazing individuals that helped make it happen. So this was a huge feat for us to open this brand new research facility. And then during that time, again, multiple hats, I took up winter nursery activities as well, leading teams in Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Chile, Mexico, to make sure that we had the right seed coming in at the right time and vice versa, as that we're shipping our seed out too. And so just a lot going on, truly impactful, probably where most of my gray hair has come from, honestly, but I learned a lot about me as a leader, as a scientist, as a plant breeder, but most importantly, as a person. I learned who I wanted to be and, what version I wanted to activate at that time. So fast forward 4 years, the same individual took me out for chips and salsa and margaritas, and he's fantastic. And as we were talking, he's like, hey, Megan, I want you to try out Europe. Europe's going to be your next opportunity. And I was excited. The family and we jumped on a short-term assignment to 2 hours south in Budapest, Hungary, and Szeged, Hungary. And I had the opportunity to work with an amazing team in Szeged, Hungary, with multiple languages, multiple cultures, corn, sunflower, commercial, research, and then travel, across Switzerland, Germany, France, Italy, Austria. Fantastic. Again, learning more about who I am and what I want to do. And so after that assignment, we arrived back stateside. And I was so excited to move to Indianapolis at the time. That was the headquarters for Dow AgriSciences and Dow Chemicals, Michigan, but Dow Agro. And I was ready to go, the next opportunity. And I remember the phone call where they said, hey, Megan, we're going to announce a merger in 2 days. Now, most would be excited. I was super excited, but part of me was like, okay, I'm on relocation number 4 at this time, and I have to build my brand from the ground up. I was a little bit nervous, and maybe I thought about it more than I should have, but I did because I wanted to do what's right for my family, but also right for me. Most don't know this piece of it, but none of these moves and this journey would be possible without my strong support network. And so my husband has a master's in HR and operational logistics and business, and he chose to leave his 80-hour-a-week job to become a stay-at-home dad in that 2012 period. And so by doing that and sacrificing that, because he wanted to help launch a female agriculture leader in the industry, and he wanted to help be my biggest champion, and he is to this day my biggest champion when it comes to making all of this possible. So leap of faith, said yes. Dow AgriSciences pioneered, they merged to form Corteva. And Corteva, we moved to Northern Iowa for a very short stint just to help with merger activities, to help get the teams excited, engaged, get the breeders and the field testing units connected. And then really into that, I paused. I did self-reflection. I've been in plant breeding for so long. I knew that this was an opportunity for me to be green and growing, continuously learning. And so I decided to join crop protection. I knew that we applied stuff to crops as a plant breeder, but I didn't understand the end-to-end formulation development. I didn't know the marketing teams, the commercial teams. I just really wanted to pause and strengthen my knowledge set to reach my career aspirations as well. Be a more well-rounded leader for the people around me. So I joined crop protection and global innovation. I again worked with awesome people around the world trying to enhance data collection efficiency and safety and quality, and doing it with drones or drone application or robots or sensors or engineering tools. And it was super exciting. I actually got coached during that time that, Megan, there is a difference between a data and software engineer. And now I am so mindful of the differences that I love knowing the differences and activating the differences in different arenas today. But yeah, so that's where I wrapped up my career at Corteva. And you're probably seeing a jump, right, my friends? You're seeing a jump in 2022 from Corteva to Bayer. And it was the best jump out of my entire career history. And there's reasons why is, we get to a point where you have to do your self-reflection to make sure that you're bringing your best version to work every single day. And I wasn't actually looking at the time, and I received a phone call from somebody that I met probably 3 or 4 years ago, an inspirational leader. And the phone call was, hey, Megan, we have this cool position you should consider. And at the time, I was like, crop protection, no, I need to see crop protection. I need to get this new exposure. It's a global team. I want to see where it goes. So I said no. Now, most people could have been like, okay, Megan said no. Okay, I'm done talking to her. But this amazing plant breeder and leader said, you know what, Megan? I'm so excited to get the opportunity to work with you someday. And he left an imprint on me. It just really stuck with me that this person cares about people. Well, that same person reached out in 2021. And, decided, hey, I don't know if I had a position then, but I may have something of interest now. And I want you to take a look. And again, I wasn't looking, but I was so excited and inspired to have a strong people leader who cared about employee development, succession planning, career planning. And I also wanted to learn a new culture. I wanted to learn how different companies work. I wanted to provide and have bigger impact, but most importantly, meet new people, build up my network. So I challenged myself every year to step outside my comfort zone. One time, 2022 was super big, but I'm happy I did it. And I moved from Corteva to Bayer Crop Science. I joined Bayer Crop Science in April of 2022, so I'm getting ready to celebrate 1 year. My team is really excited, or at least they're smiling if they're listening. But it was fantastic. I lead the equipment and automated field sensing team across the globe. And so really what our team does is we drive the development, validation, and deployment of high-impact digital tools and sensors. And I think of my team from end-to-end product development, from innovation, the ideation, the development, the validation, to deployment. How do we make this real for every region, not just North America, but LATAM, Asia Pacific, Europe, et cetera? How do we make sure that we are providing them solutions that are applicable for their regions and also meet their needs? And then you have the end side of it, which is a huge pillar, is my equipment team, from centralization to fleeting of, all the different sensors and units, but most importantly to the support and maintenance. That team that's on call 24/7 to help make sure all this works together. And so I get the opportunity, and I'm grateful to lead this amazing team of innovators, scientists, engineers, and to really make a difference. But most importantly, I'm super grateful to work with a company that lets me be me. And we're going to do some exercises in a little bit to help you reflect on how do you find your best version and your energy boosters and drainers, because I can tell you that this move has truly been a recharging moment for me, a huge reflection moment, but now Magan 3.0, truly activated. And I'm just really grateful. That's my day job. I'm always a mom. I have 2 daughters. I'm a wife. And then my night job is STEM outreach. I kind of do a lot of this under the radar, to be honest with all of you. But I really want to make sure that we are setting up our future for success, our future generation of leaders and scientists. And so my husband and I, we co-founded a STEM camp. I'm a AAAS If Then ambassador. And so that's that program. If she can see it, then she can be it. That's where the statue comes into play, not just the Dr. Magan statue, but the statue of 120 amazing women in the industry that are making a difference and inspiring those future scientists and leaders to go get it. I'm huge in the community and always giving back. So I really enjoy being a board of director member for the Science Center of Iowa. And then also just co-leading a local 4-H chapter to keep a pulse on what's going on in the community. And my recent STEM my STEM adventure exploration is I joined and appointed by Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds So now I'm working on the STEM Council to help with, determining where grants go, looking at agriculture technology, curriculum for our future students, and working with amazing educators across the state of Iowa, and whether it's rural or the big city. And it's been really fantastic because getting into the mindset of what maybe some needs that we need to really look into the future. So those are just a couple of my fun that I do on the side. But as I said, I joined Bayer in April of 2022, and it's about making every interaction count. And I hit the ground running. Like I said, these are just a couple of photos. I just wanted to give a shout out to the incredible team. And I do have to be honest, though, you see the photo on the right-hand side, Lewis Hybrids. I knew I was in the right place. I joined a production facility and I saw my name and I was like, oh my gosh, can I have this sign? And they said, yes, Megan, you can take it home. And so I did. I'm all about signs, and things happen for a reason. But I was able to enter my first cotton field this year and meet with amazing teams in Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas. But most importantly, I'm excited to see where my trips take me this year and how we can continue building together to help feed the growing population, health for all, hunger for none. So what I want to talk about today now we're going to dive more into, you can listen to me chat, but I think it's more important that you have a chance to reflect and you have a chance to walk away from this workshop with something tangible that you could take back and actually put into action to better yourself. But before we get into the workshop piece of it, this is something that my advisor at North Dakota State University, so Dr. Richard Forsley, really helped coach me on, because I was a little bit below the line entering from master's to PhD for many personal and professional reasons. But he let me and he helped me look at failures as not failures. When I first walked into his office, he even said, we need to call them unexpected results. And by doing that little tweak and positive mindset, I can tell you I use this in my leadership today, because now with my teams, I don't call them failure. Obviously, sometimes I do fail fast, smart, stop. But what I say is, hey, we learned something. So what are we doing differently? How are we taking those learnings and putting them into action and making tangible, impactful change? And so I just wanted to open up this quote with, I encourage my teams to not focus on failures, but embrace the unexpected results and focus on the continuous learning segment. And because of that mindset shift, I can tell you that I'm more adaptable, I'm more flexible, I'm more agile. I don't know, small town North Dakota would have moved to Europe. Back in the day, I thought for sure I'd be in North Dakota for life. And now we're on relocation number 7 or 8, I lose count, right? It's about embracing the journey and not focusing on the destination. And so I just wanted to pause to make sure that we're all thinking about that and how we're setting ourselves up to be more adaptable, flexible, and agile. This is a fun one too. Just wanted to, everybody goes, Megan, you never show pictures of your kids. And I normally don't for YouTube or podcast things, but you will get their back of their heads, because this moment was so important to me. You need to find those boosters in your life, those energy boosters, those moments that you can reflect on to remind yourself, why do you do what you do? My daughters, I strive to do what I do to be the best role model I can be for them. And so on the left-hand photo, it's the back of their heads, but this is when I teamed up with actress Miranda Cosgrove on CBS. And we talked really cool agriculture technology. But the best part about it was not just the taping, the 14-hour session, working with amazing producers. The best part was when my daughters saw me on our big screen TV, and they went over and they pointed and they're like, Mom, that's you. Mom, that's a female scientist on TV. Mom, I can be a scientist too. This is the impact that you can have in your local communities by just tweaking and doing one thing differently or giving back in some capacity. And so then these are just some examples, whether it's a science center billboard, or if it's going to be a statue, applying for a program to really help get your brand out there, or if it's just talking to FFA or talking to 4-H students, what are you doing and how are you paying it forward by inspiring the next generation? So this slide is meant to be inspirational, to get those juices flowing of how you can give back to communities, inspire the next round of plant breeders, because plant breeders, near and dear to my heart. I actually don't tell people to go straight plant breeding anymore. I tell them to say, what's your +1? Plant breeding +1, because we're moving so fast in this space. And so this is your inspiration to reflect on who you are, what you want your brand to be, but also how do you want to inspire our future generation? Now the fun part. The fun part is focusing on the workshop piece of what you all can take out of today and put into action for yourself. Now, I know I can't hear all of you, but I can see faces. So I'm going to use some terminology, but hopefully describe the terminology well enough so it's clear of what I'm going at. So when I say big rocks, maybe just a shake or nod of our head. Do you know what I mean when I say big rocks? Maybe. Yep, I see some nodding. So big rocks to me are those non-negotiables. Even, I wish I would have known this when I was a graduate student, PhD in plant breeding, because I totally would have put this in action. And so what I would do for this is, my big rocks, my non-negotiables, my decisions, I was not really good at, I would say, polishing my big rocks. I was continually rebuilding them. And big rocks, if you've seen this activity, it's fantastic. There's this YouTube video where a professor takes a jar and he puts in golf balls, representing the big rocks. But then he also sprinkles in, some of the distractions, the sand, the pebbles, and it's really cool video. He tops it out with refreshment. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I can put the link in the chat. But what it's about is we don't focus on our big rocks. If we don't put our big rocks in our jar first, our entire life is going to focus on those pebbles, on the sand. It's going to focus on the distractions that are going to take away from us making that big difference in the world or going after that career aspiration that we all have deep inside. So big rocks are those non-negotiables, what's important to you, and then using those to make decisions, whether it's looking at your calendar, your career roadmap, what you want to do with your life. Do you want to go to grad school? Do you want to go master's, PhD to industry, academia, you name it. Big rocks help you focus and help you reflect on what's important to you. So I'm going to share my big rocks with all of you. But as I'm talking, I want all of you to pause and write down your top 2 to 3 big rocks. And then I want you to ask yourself, are you living your big rocks or are you consistently rebuilding? Meaning that you're not focused on them, all the sand and the pebble, they're getting in the way. You're not living your big rocks, you're rebuilding. My big rocks, number 1, family. Family's number 1 for me, husband and 2 daughters. I love agriculture innovation. New technologies that we develop allow farmers to make their operation as sustainable and productive as possible while protecting natural resources. Sustainability is big, my friends. Outreach. I'm so engaged and inspired by our future generation of leaders and scientists. How can I help make our world change for the better? Global connectivity. I love meeting people, but it's what those interactions do. How do we make every interaction count to strengthen our mission and our vision? So these are my big rocks. And what I can tell you, my amazing assistant, Monica, I give her a shout out in every big presentation. She's fantastic. We actually look at my big rocks in my weekly calendar every week to make sure that things look right. I'm aligned. I'm focused on what I need to be focused on with my core job, responsibilities, priorities. My team's getting taken care of. But most importantly, I'm being taken care of because I also am having these non-negotiable rocks in my life that really help focus my passion and drive. So as you're writing down your big rocks, now this is just some quick nuggets of insight, and you're going to have some other to-do assignments and homework to do after today's session. But I do want you to focus on the construction zones that polish those big rocks. I want you to spend less time with the pebbles and the sand that fill up your jar, those detours that end up being a distraction and take away from you helping feeding the growing population, or take away from you helping to be that inspirational leader that's going to inspire and influence other leaders in the organization. So I have a couple of tricks. This is not a one-size-fits-all. Full disclaimer, this works for me. You need to find out what works for you. I have 2 cell phones, and my 2 cell phones, I have professional and I have personal. And most people think it's clunky, but I absolutely love it. Because what I do with my work cell phone at the end of a shift, because I'm a global leader, have some night meetings sprinkled in. But at the end of the shift, I take my work cell phone, I walk it into our garage, I put it in a plastic tote, I shut it, I lock it. Done. It helps me mentally say, hey, I need to have quality time with my core big rock, which was my family. Weekly calendar review. My amazing assistant and I, we review my calendar. It's okay to say no. It's okay if you don't see an agenda, or it's okay if you don't feel that that meeting's going to provide provides you the information and the inspiration that you need to tackle your work goals, priorities, etc. But weekly calendar review is so critical, and having the ability to say no. Now, this meeting was an absolute yes. I know when the team talked to me, I was traveling last week and I said, hey, I can't do it next week, but I want to do it this week. And just making sure that you make time for those energy boosters as well. Focus time, calendar appointments. Start this now. You don't have to be in industry or academia or in a position. Block your calendar 15, 30, 45 minutes to make sure that you have time to reflect and recharge, and not just focus on email, but also focus on your job and what you're doing differently and how can you make a difference. Big rocks. Number one, there's a theme. There's 4 areas we're going to focus on that when you leave this session. I want to see all those LinkedIn profiles updated on the About Me section so I learn more about you and that you're telling the best story and your brand is highly visible. So your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. I think this is really critical. It's not about what you think your brand is. It's about capturing that feedback, what others think your brand is. And it's really impactful. So I'm going to start this out. Most of you have probably seen a similar activity, but this is really important. I think that we get stuck in the bottom side of, hey, how can we make money? You finish school, how do we monetize our skill sets? How do we support our family? What are my core strengths? Hey, I love data science. Oh, I'm really good at drones. I'm a pilot. Ooh, I'm fantastic at going through mining through data, etc. So I think we know what we can monetize from. And I also think we know our strengths. But an area that was really a aha moment for me was, hey, Megan, are you doing what you love to do? But most importantly, what does the world need from me? And so this whole exercise is really critical. I would have each of you walk through each one individually, write down, how can you monetize your skill sets? What are your core strengths? What you feel, your profession, your passion that you're bringing to the table. But also don't forget 3 and 4, the nice little heart emoji on top and the question at the side. Make sure you're doing what you love to do. And really call that out. Are you loving people leadership, administrative, scientific? Are you loving walking fields? Really being one in the corn or soybean or sunflower, canola, cotton, etc. All crops included. And so it really think about your mission and your passion, but most importantly, focus on your calling. I told you the story in the beginning when that grower and farmer looked at that 17-year-old Megan and just said, hey, you're going to make a difference someday. That was the beginning of my calling journey. Yes, I love music. I kept music as a hobby. I sing opera on the side, I do piano, percussion, etc. I compose music, but that's my hobby. That's my recharging activity that I love to do. But I know my calling is greater. My calling is to not only be a role model for my daughters, but a role model for many, and especially a role model for female leaders in the agriculture industry. That yes, we can do this. We can get there together. Leave all egos at the door and really co-create. So I challenge you to do this activity, take time, but most importantly, I want all of you to focus on what does the world need from you? This mindset change will help you on your journey of investing in yourself. So you have your big rocks, you're going to find your purpose. Now let's get this tailored in a little bit. Now I can't see a lot of people on the call today, but really, how many CTOs, CEOs exist in an organization? And when I do this live, I keynote, everybody's like, well, one, Dr. Megan, one. Absolutely, usually one, right? Head of R&D, CTO. So the point of that question is that in a qualified candidate pool, how are you standing out? This is testing your brand. And most importantly, are you standing out for the right reasons of why you want to stand out? Or are you standing out for reasons that you don't want to stand out for? And so how, for example, I even struggled with this with my brand. It's like, yes, I'm a scientist, I'm a plant breeder, I have patents, but because I love the people part too, it's hard for others to see that I could be a people leader and a scientist simultaneously, right? So it's really important to revise and tweak your brand so you're standing out for the right reason. Self-awareness, that other activity, know your strengths, know your calling, know your mission. What does the world need from you? And then the fun activity. If you had me in person, I guarantee I'd be selecting people out of the audience and say, hey, share with me your 30-second elevator pitch. This is what you put on LinkedIn, folks. This is what you put on the About Me segment to really help enhance your social selling index on LinkedIn. This is the power of the story. Not just tell me who you are, what your degrees are in, what you're super passionate about, but the why, the how. Why do you love what you do? Why does plant breeding just really stand out to you in agriculture? What meaningful story do you want to tell in the beginning? Did you walk fields with your grandfather, or do you have a family farm? Or did you travel internationally and meet a smallholder farmer? Those stories are powerful. And then, I call it the Oreo cookie. You're going to get true Megan today. But I call it the Oreo cookie effect. You have two crunchy chocolate cookies, and then you have that gooey white stuff in the middle that sticks it together. So the intro is, hey, why do you do what you do? What inspired you to get into agriculture? Then the fluffy stuff, the cream, right? You put in there, hey, this is my education, my strengths, my skill sets. Really, really brief. Again, you have 30 seconds. And then at the end, I want that punch statement. I want to know, what do you want to do to change the world? What does the world need from you? What impact are you going to have on the world today? Oreo cookie underneath your About Me statement in LinkedIn will take you far, my friends, because now it opens up you as an empath. It opens up you as you are a tangible human being that we can relate to, that we can see your skill sets, but most importantly, we can see your passion, your drive, your persistence with that ending comment is so critical. I also get asked, why 30 seconds? 30 seconds. Many journal articles out there, make it count, because 30 seconds, when I meet you someday, unfortunately, just human psychology, I'm either going to be super excited, I want to hear everything about it, or on the other end, I'll already be like, okay, turn off. So you have 30 seconds to really make that impact. And the importance of 30 seconds, I'll share a fun story. I was in Dallas, Texas, at a science conference, and it was super fun. I was in an elevator, somebody I didn't know, and she had her 30-second speech ready to go. And I was excited because she got me. I was like, oh yeah, the elevator speech in an elevator, by the way. I said, fantastic. So I gave my 30-second pitch, and I can tell you today, I now have a lifelong mentor and coach, and she's the head of artificial intelligence at Amazon, AWS. Fantastic, right? She challenges me, but I can tell you, being humble and humility in the first moment when I met her, she goes, Megan, on LinkedIn, how many likes did you get on a photo? Or what was your average like, or your trending on LinkedIn? I said, I was all excited. I was a new LinkedIner. And I said, hey, yeah, I'm getting like, 20, 30 likes on a photo. I was super pumped. And she smiled and she goes, oh, that's cute. I average around 150,000 likes on a post. So it just really helps you get in mind, but it shows the value that now we can coach each other, help each other, mentor each other, and most importantly, grow each other. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what elevator ride you're going to take, or just even walking down the street, who you meet that day. So make that interaction count. Know your 30 seconds, really about who you are, why you do what you do, how do you do it, and what drives you to do what you do. Oreo cookie, my friends. I wish I could share Oreo cookies with everybody because they sound fantastic right now. So next part of it is the Strength Finder Work Edition. So now you have your big rocks, you have your purpose, you're building out your brand of why you do what you do, you're investing in yourself. This is just to help you. This is a +1 activity. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. But think about your most successful project. It can be personal, professional. Why was that project successful? What role excited you most on that team? How did you navigate challenges? Did you activate any new skill sets? But most importantly, what would your team say about your contribution? How are you collecting that feedback? How are you taking that feedback and putting it into action? That is critical. One of my tips and tricks is that people that I work with, other CEOs, different industries, etc., my core mentor network, I will send an email and say, hey, describe Megan in 5 words. Good or bad? I do that because it gives me a pulse of what others think about my contribution and who I am as a scientist and as a leader. Know your energy boosters and your energy drainers. This is so critical. What excites you to get up in the morning and not hit the snooze button, folks? Like, that is so important. What's that inspiration? What sparks joy at work? But also know your drainers. I know now I'm going to be the person that's going to be a real moment. You cannot eliminate drainers. Drainers will always exist, but what I'm telling you, because welcome to the real world, right? I'm telling you, for every drainer, sprinkle in 1 to 2 boosters to help balance it out. So I'm not saying eliminate drainers, because we can't, but we can be better managers of our boosters and drainers by dosing in the boosters with some of the drainers. So drainer for me is, 12 hours of Teams meetings, no bio breaks, all virtual, no interaction, Megan in her basement office, right? But my boosters, things like this, getting to interact with our future scientist leaders. My future boss someday might be listening in. Hi, nice to meet you. I wish you the best of luck. But no, really, it is about how do you sprinkle in boosters with those drainers. And boosters for me are, hiking. Boosters could be just taking a break and reading a fun innovation book or journal article, or interacting with one-on-one in inspiring mentoring, mentoring, stuff like that. So just really be mindful what drains you and also what boosts you so that you can balance those two out. And then you have a successful LinkedIn profile, which is super exciting. So as you think about your big rocks, you think about your brand, you think about this journey of finding your purpose. And then most importantly, you figure out, hey, what energizes me and what drains me? And self-awareness is key, because that's going to help activate your best version. So here's some final thoughts that I wanted to leave all of you with today, is to be bold. You not only need to acknowledge your strengths, you need to accept your fears, but most importantly, you need to embrace the mistakes, or what we call unexpected results, and embrace the feedback. And then how are you paying it forward? As you build your brand, you need to generate awareness. You need to create achievable goals, and you need to dream big. What does the world need from you? What do you want to provide to the world? And what is your mission, your vision, your calling? I think it's so critical. Embrace mentorship. Identify different mentors, commit to the learning process, have clear agendas, my friends. If you have mentors in the industry or higher leaders, make sure you map out, I call it the mentorship roadmap, of areas that you want to focus on in each discussion, so you have something tangible that you can walk away with as an improvement for yourself. And be clear and over communicate if possible. I currently mentor 45 individuals across the world, different times across the year. I have also a list where I try to sprinkle in new mentees too, because I think it's important to shuffle and they get exposed to other leaders' styles just besides me. I also have my own group of mentors. I do the top 5. And my top 5 is connected to community outreach, president of a nonprofit board. My top 5 is connected to a financial CEO that keeps me grounded on my big rock with family. And then other core leaders across the Bayer Crop Science organization. So I'm telling you that, yes, find your mentors, have your plan drafted. Like, hey, I want to talk courageous conversations in session 1. I want to talk about time prioritization and work-life integration in session 2. Have that plan ready to go, because it's going to make that relationship that much stronger and that much better, impactful for not only you, but also for your mentor. And most importantly, pay it forward. How are you mentoring somebody today? How are you adding that dose of inspiration? How are you creating leaders and not followers? We don't need more followers. We need leaders. We need mentors to inspire people, to champion people. We need them to take it to the next level. Especially when it comes to diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. Another core nugget I want to sneak in on this slide that is so critical. How are we being champions and not cheerleaders? And when I say that, cheerleaders can say all the right things, right? But a champion is the person in the right room at the right time, at the right table, driving the right discussion. Helping you get there, helping, supporting, advocating for you, and helping you in your career. So when you think about your mentor lineup, make sure that you identify the cheerleaders are awesome. They're like, woo, you got this, go get it. But are you identifying champions that are going to take you to the next level, that are going to help activate your best version, help you recognize your areas of improvement, but most importantly, help you soar to the next level of your career or your journey? Again, focus on the journey, not destination. And the most important thing on this slide that I cannot embrace enough, especially in the plant breeding community, my friends, is being humble. Practice mindfulness. Learn to be an active listener. You know, I was not the best active listener 6, 7 years ago, but I purposely made this my focus point, and I love what it has brought to me today. It's not speaking with, listening, I'm listening with the intent to reply. It's listening and digesting what the person is saying, building the connections, understanding where they're coming from, and then speaking and replying. And that practice has been so huge for me as a people leader, especially a global people leader, because every culture interacts differently. So I challenge all of you to be active listeners. And also, if you think you're a strong active listener, test it out and ask for feedback to see if you truly are a good active listener. Another thing is ask for help when you need it. We're human and things happen. And so mental health is real. I have led hundreds of people in my career. I've also had to coach hundreds of people in my career over this hump. And so, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it, and don't be afraid to lead by example. There was a point in my career where I was pushing 80 hours a week. I was working, on call 24/7 for harvest season. And my friends, we are human. I lost my dad. I just had a new baby. We moved for the 3rd time. A lot of things built up. And guess what? I hit a wall. I thought I was having a heart attack. My team thought I was having a heart attack. So they rushed me into the emergency room. The doctor staff thought I was having a heart attack. And what it was stress-induced costochondritis. And that moment, lying in the hospital bed, I made it a mission to say, this is not me. I need to focus on my big rocks. I need to make sure I get rid of the distractions, those detours that just end up being a distraction. And I need to be a better role model for my family. And so when I gave this whole exercise today, team, it is so critical that you do this. You know your boosters, you know your trainers, you know what your strengths are, you know what your purpose is, because with the positive mindset, you will be successful and you will also prevent burnout. And you can inspire others to do the same. So when we say, really ask for help when you need it, as leaders and as breeders listening to the call, guess what? There are many people looking up to you too. It's important that you lead by example to show that this is okay. And this is how we embrace it. And most importantly, be grateful. Send a handwritten thank you note. They go so far. I make my daughters write handwritten thank you notes for everything. Mom, this is so old school. We can just type it on email. And I said, no, handwritten thank yous go a long way. And as you think about wrapping up today, when you think about networking, I love sharing this photo. This is my grandmother in South Dakota. And everybody goes, Megan, where did you learn who you are? How did you incorporate my parents? Absolutely. Trailblazers in the community. But a lot of the basics came from my grandmother. And so I want you to think about in your life, who's your role model or your mentor in your life that's really been that sounding board with you the entire time. My grandmother taught me to always be myself, to not just say my values, but to live my values, to be intentional, not just a cheerleader, but a champion, solution provider, solution developer, to always learn something new, to actively listen, to enjoy coffee and kuchen. I love coffee. If you know what kuchen is, it's this amazing custard dessert with fruit in it. And if you ever meet me, I don't usually have it because my grandma taught me that that's really important that we do. And then the value of handwritten thank you notes is so critical. Because what I want to leave all of you with today is that there's only one thing more precious than our time, and that's who we spend it on. So know your brand, know your purpose, know your vision, and what you want to give back in the world, and know what the world needs from you. Do it with a positive mindset, not failure, but unexpected results. Inspire others to embrace unexpected results. Inspire others to activate their best version, because when they activate their best version, I can tell you that all the teams around them activate their best versions. And that's harmony. That's where I get to blend my science and my music, my friends, from being an opera singer. That is harmony, because now we are working together, co-creating together, leaving egos at the door, and we are truly making a difference for agriculture worldwide. So thank you.
Can you still hear us, Megan?
Yeah, I don't think she can hear us. Hold on.
Okay. That is
But
what I was wondering because she was not responding. Or we might just like type the question in the chat box or like QA box. So that,
yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
Hey team, I'm now gonna call in just so we can have a discussion if that's okay. So
Yep.
I'm gonna log off the video. Hopefully everybody has time to capture LinkedIn, Insta, etc. Reach out to me. I don't bite my assistants as I nibble, so it's fantastic. So I'm gonna call in and I'll be with you in just a moment.
Perfect.
And it looks like we cannot type the question in QA box. I'm not able to type any question here.
I actually did type the question from the registrant in the chat.
Not in the chat.
Yeah, I mean in the Q&A. Yeah, I also wasn't able to do that.
Oh, weird.
I think you have to give the permission, Andy.
Oh,
Well, though Dr. Lewis actually did type in the chat.
yeah. Let's just use chat.
Okay. Is she trying to fix the audio again or?
I think so.
Happening?
We'll
Okay.
see. But yeah, we'll see.
John, I think meanwhile you can just like type the question in the chat box just in case. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Dr. Lewis, can you hear us? Let's see.
Okay, team, I am back. I can hear you all.
Awesome.
That's great. All right, so I'll fire the first question from one of our registrants. So what type of opportunities are available for postdocs to transition into leadership roles in the industry?
So that's a great question because I usually get from my mentors around the world about, hey, should I do a postdoc or should I jump into industry? And there's this cool thing I recently did with a PhD student about trying an internship first to see if industry was a fit for him or her. And I say that because an internship, whether it's a co-op, 3, 6 month, etc., you can learn a lot about people in that short amount of time. You can learn a ton about the company culture, but most importantly, you can learn, hey, am I fit? Do I fit in? Is this what I want to do with my life? Or do I want to go back to school and just kind of hold on to see, hey, what do I want to do on my journey? So when I think about postdocs, I probably have different viewpoints than most in the industry. So this is Megan's opinion, full disclaimer. But I would challenge those postdocs to be more bold, meaning that a postdoc, I think, provides a ton of experience, but also keep in mind, you gain leadership experience in a postdoc. You lead teams in most cases in a lab or a field, etc. You do presentations, you activate adaptive communication, my friends. It's about building that story and communicating that story well enough in an interview that's going to take you farther. And so, you know, I don't know about jumping straight into leadership roles if you didn't have prior leadership. But I feel that there's ways that you can activate your postdoc experience and share your story that will help you get considered for a leadership position. So in my opinion, it's about, hey, what experiences are we going on? It goes back to that whole beginning exercise of what are my strengths, being aware of what my strengths are, but most importantly, what does the world need from me? And so I would challenge anybody that's, you know, thinking of the postdoc, transitioning into industry or academia to be bold, to be drivers in your career, to really start, you know, saying some of those core words in the CV or resume, building out your network. Don't do it, go into it blindly. You know, networks are so key. After you submit an application, if you're super interested in a leadership role, what industry and individual are you reaching out to say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I applied for this role. I'm super excited because this is what I feel I can bring to the organization. And so I challenge you to be bold in the sense of maybe stepping outside your comfort zone and pitching and selling what your key skill sets are and what those skill sets can do to provide to the greater organization. And so that hopefully that helps. I'm telling all of you to be bold, but most importantly, don't underestimate the value and the experience that you have coming in. But in a different light, show us it, because it is so valuable. And each of the postdocs listening brings such a unique perspective and different culture differences. I mean, it is so critical. So my advice is be bold, don't be shy, but most important, rely on your network. Make sure that you are connecting with key individuals, you're drawing those connections, and you're making every interaction count to help you on the journey, because we're doing it together, my friends. We're co-creating, and this is where we leave egos at the door and we start building together.
I have a question, Megan. I see that you keep emphasizing on being bold or brave. So I wonder that has it been easy for you to be bold and confident always like this ever since you have started your career?
No. So hopefully if I understood the question right, if I've been bold and confident like this my whole career, the answer is no. No, the answer is no. I honestly, it was a journey for me, and that's where I'm hoping to inspire other future leaders today listening and et cetera, is that it is a journey. Early in my career, when I left from PhD to go straight to industry, I think there's more focus on the destination, and then you lose sight of the journey. You lose sight of everybody that you meet and the experience that you gain. And what I can tell you is that I had a different level of boldness. So I'm going to be humble and embrace humility a little bit here. But after I finished my doctorate, I was like, hey, I'm Dr. Megan. This is fantastic, right? And you get to the door, but I was handed a broom. I wasn't handed an office and ready to make selections. I was handed a broom. And that experience was the best experience of my entire career. And I say that because it helped me get leveled right away in the beginning, that we all hands impact the kernel seed that we touched, and all hands work together. So that was a great moment for me. But also my journey was not rainbow and sprinkles and gumdrops. My journey had bumps. My journey had detours, whether it was being denied promotion for no reason, or whether it was, being told no and trying to find a way to get yes. But what I can tell you, the last 6 years, I've been able to use all those experiences along my journey to my benefit. And I also realize that I feel that the industry does need a strong female voice to help us move forward too. And so I guess I've never been this bold and brave. I love communication. I love adaptive communication, but it took experience and it took time. Honestly, it took me, I almost said failing. It took those unexpected results. It took getting those answers that I wasn't prepared to hear. And the biggest thing that I did was, hey, how do I pick myself up? How do I keep the drive, persistence, and passion going? And how do I activate my best version? Because as I said in the beginning, I'm a mom. I have 2 young daughters that watch my every single move. And when I was not as bold in the beginning, I felt I wasn't being the best role model for them to go get life, to go be a scientist, to go be a leader, to go chase their dreams, and to go really embrace IDE and B. So no is my quick answer, but what I can say is that I hope to gain, I have confidence in some scenarios, but there's also things I'm critically working on as I figure out what I want to be when I grow up and what I want to do and the impact that I want to have. And so I challenge everybody to embrace the journey and not focus on the destination. And by embracing the journey, we are able to recognize maybe our core strengths, but also areas of improvement. And that in time will build the confidence. That in time will build the ability to be brave, but also find out who you're brave for. I'm brave for my daughters. From a professional standpoint, I love this. I just attended a diversity, inclusion, equity workshop last week that was fantastic with our global leadership team. And as we sat in a room, the head consultant goes, hey, I don't want to say safe space anymore. Instead, in safe space, we use the word brave space. And so by just even changing the mindset and keeping positivity, how can we help others activate their best version or activate their boldness, right? Now, bold comes in all different shapes, sizes, and formats. Bold doesn't mean you have to be like Megan. And I really want to emphasize that. I recently just did an article interview with Successful Farming. And if you haven't read it, you should, because it's one of the interviews I'm most proud of, because for many years, I always said my mentor was my dad, world-known science teacher, 2005 top teacher of the world, in national committees, involved in so much. And when he passed, it left a huge hole in my life. In that article, when I was asked again, who is my core mentor? And I say my mom. And my mom is not like me. She's the behind the scenes individual, kind of like Wizard of Oz behind the green screen, but she's behind the scenes to make sure that everything is going well, to make sure that we have the tools we need to be successful, to make sure that we are thinking through, being a sounding board, active listening. And so when I say be bold doesn't mean be loud, right? Be bold. My mom is probably the boldest person that I know in my life. And she's not one to showcase it or talk about it, say, this is me, this is who I am. She's the quiet one. And that is so powerful. So my lesson here is being bold doesn't mean that you talk and you bring this to life. Being bold means that you're making a difference, whether people know it or not. So that's one thing I would just leave as insight, because she's taught me the power of being humble. She's taught me the power of embracing humility and the power of leading by example. You don't realize how many eyes are watching you on your career, even like aspiring students or people in your realm or coworkers or colleagues. Are you your best version? And how are you inspiring them to be leaders and not followers? And so I give that to my mom. So being bold does not mean loud. Being bold means making a difference when it matters. And I just wanted to make sure that we cover that nugget because it's really near and dear to my heart.
All right, so I think I can throw potentially the last question in the interest of time. So you mentioned about like connection and building network. In terms of like working with people from different fields, people with different, backgrounds and stuff, what advice can you give to like us that will probably just be starting on like leadership role and,
Yeah, so networking is really important. So self-awareness is number one. Know your boosters and drainers, because the worst thing that can happen is if an introvert or somebody who doesn't like a lot of people or a lot of face-to-face interaction goes in and they blast in all these one-on-one coffee chats with people, right? So self-awareness is key, number one. Number two, activate your version of bold. What does bold mean to you? Because that means if I was starting a new company and somebody that I follow on LinkedIn that I think is really impactful and I agree with their vision and what they're talking about, I'm going to send a personalized message of something specifically that stood out that they posted that I relate to. And that is really critical, is personalizing it, not just spamming their accounts, but personalizing a friend request. You think about LinkedIn too. LinkedIn is our social portal right now when it comes to up and coming talent. Do we know our social selling index? I don't know if you know what I mean when I say that, but LinkedIn can be science too, my friends. You can pull dashboards and insight to see your SSI. And so I would check that out. But, when you find somebody that you really connect with, as whether the industry or academia or wherever they're located, you want to help increase their following. So what you do is you share their content, you build that connection with them. You then pay it forward by reaching out and saying, hey, I want to have a coffee chat because X, Y, and Z really inspired me to be my best version. And then that's where it starts. It's a conversation. Now that's LinkedIn. That's the people you don't know. Now, if you start in a new organization, get to know the org rather quickly, get to know the acronyms. Don't do it prematurely though. You don't want to jump in and meet with people and then say like, I don't know how you connect. Tell me how you connect. Have a sound knowledge before going into those connections and discussions. Make sure that you know how, in a general sense, how people connect and figure out how you can help them be successful. So tailor your conversations as you join a new role in academia or industry to how can you help that person be successful. That co-creation is really critical. It's about the mindset shift, not just saying, hey, what do you do? Instead you say, hey, how can I help you be successful? Tell me a little bit about your journey. You see the difference in that tone and that flavor? I think that's going to be really critical. So LinkedIn, send a message in your brave space, in your bold space, send a message, make it intentional. And then number two, it's really about activating your best version. It's about knowing your surroundings, self-awareness, and company or academia awareness as well. But don't be afraid to reach out. There's many people that love coffee chats or one-on-one chats or want to get to know you. And sometimes, you know, I got a coffee cup on my desk too that where, you know, we've all been in meetings that could have been better served as an email. Don't forget that either, you know, so be mindful of people's times too. Like if you're not prepared to have a solid conversation of what you want to cover, you know, how you can help them be successful, it's okay to pause. It's okay to wait till you have all the materials you need to be successful, but every interaction matters. And you don't always have to go straight to the top. What I've seen too is people are like straight to the top, you know, the head person. There's so much value and learning opportunities at your peer level or even below your level because they have the experience, they understand the company, embrace those relationships, pay it forward, and mentor those individuals too. So networking to me is a whole life circle. And I think that we need to start looking at it a little bit differently rather than just saying, I met so-and-so, but be intentional. If you're going to meet somebody, what is your intention? What do you want to get out of it? And how are you going to drive impact from that conversation?
All right, thank you, Dr. Lewis.
And I think we are now like beyond 11. It's time to wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Dr. Lewis, for sharing such a great and inspiring story with us. It's truly inspiring. And don't forget to connect with us on social media. I'm going to quickly share the screen. So we are on social media, so connect with us, follow us to stay tuned with our upcoming activities. That's the best way. So thank you once again. Yeah.
Thank you all. And please reach out. Add me on LinkedIn if you have further questions. I'd be happy to continue the conversation. But keep being your best version, activate it, and pay it forward, my friends. I love plant breeding. It's always an honor to come talk to fellow plant breeding and plant scientists and agriculture enthusiasts. So thank you for what you do, and let's keep building a better world together.
Thank you very much.